Done now.
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Matthew McConaughey.
Brad Gilmore.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The one and only Sydney Sweeney joins us. Sydney, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Tom Hanks and Robin Wright in my favorite movie of the year. Guys, thanks so much for joining the show.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you. Jessica Alba and Lizzie Mathis. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Kevin Costner joins us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
One of my all-time favorites, Vince Vaughn, joins us right now. Vince, thanks, man.
Oh, great to be with you, Brad, and great to be talking to Houston. Good morning to you.
We got Owen Wilson. We got Judy Greer. Thanks for joining the show, guys.
Thank you.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What looking to talk to me funny, lad.
Megan Trainor.
Thank you so much, Brad. You're awesome.
Paris Hilton, the infinite icon herself, is on the show. Paris, love the film.
Thank you. I'm so proud of it.
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat.
Brad Gilmore! Well, I'm so excited to be joined by my next guest. We're going to be talking about The Night Agent. New season is now on Netflix streaming, and this is one of the best shows Netflix has put out, and actually one of the most popular streaming shows they've ever had, which is saying something. And one of the stars of the series, is joining me right now, Mr. Louis Herthum. Louis, how are you, sir?
I'm great, man. It's good to be here, Brad. I appreciate it.
It's so great to talk to you. No, it's great timing because just a couple of days ago here in Houston, I had Gabriel, who's the star of the show. He was in studio, and we got to hang out for a little while. What a great guy! What a great just individual in general. He seems like such a joy to work with.
He really is. He's a fascinating guy too. The things that the action that this show commands. He does a lot. I mean, he's got a stunt double that looks just like him, but he does most of his own stunts. And the guy's an incredible athlete. I could brag on him because we were shooting at my mansion. Jacob Monroe's mansion is in a beautiful house right on the Hudson River, and the guy creates golf courses. And he had a simulation golf course in the basement where we were kind of like the green room. He was he's like, what is this? I said, it's a simulation. He grabbed a club and he's a southpaw. So I said, dude, those are righty clubs. You can't hit with that. He goes, oh, okay. So he turns righty. Brad, he was crushing 300-yard drives. And I'm like, dude, you've done this before. He said, no, I really haven't. I played baseball. I was a switch hitter, but he's something else, man.
He is something else.
A lot of fun.
As good of an athlete as he is, he's also just really well-read, really smart guy. I mean, we were talking, look, this show's so great because it's right up my alley. Sometimes I feel like it was made specifically for me because these are the kind of shows that I love. I love the action element, but I also love the crime thriller, the political thriller, the larger-than-you conspiracy that you find yourself in. And, I'm here in Texas, so I went up to I got into JFK, as we all do at some point in our life.
38 years. I'm very well versed in that.
And so I went up to Daily Plaza. I did the whole walk. I went up to the 5th floor. I saw it all. I went up to the school book depository.
Right.
In the 6th floor, and
where they got a lot of BS going on up there.
It's just here's okay. Look, I didn't expect to talk to you about this, but since you're well read on it, I'd like to know your opinion. From where they say that Lee Harvey Oswald shot from,
right,
and shot at Kennedy going away from the school book depository towards the bridge, really makes no sense it makes no sense from a tactical standpoint. You would think you'd get him on the opposite window coming up the street.
Coming up the Houston Street, he had a whole block. He was completely surrounded by cars. They had people on either side of the street. There was no escape. He could have sat there and shot everyone anybody he wanted. It was like fish in a barrel. Um, my theory, and like I said, I've studied this case extensively for over 35 years. Um, Lee didn't fire a shot, in my opinion, at all. And the new files they came out and said it looks like there were at least two shooters, and there were probably three. There was a triangulation. They put him in a situation there was no escaping, and yeah. So
Because there's no
what
other
else do you want
reason for them to target him where he was than if there was more than one shooter in that triangular position. Because
Yeah.
exactly, like he's a prime target for them in that way, as opposed to a single shooter, like you said, coming up Houston. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
And you're probably a hunter too, right? Or a shooter, something,
Mhm.
I have a Manley Carcano. I have the exact weapon that they say Lee used.
Yeah.
It's really a piece of doo-doo. And it's just got so many odd things, got a little bitty short stock. So when you put it, it feels very uncomfortable. They said he had 4 rounds. It's a 6 round clip, and when you load 4 rounds and try to load it into the weapon, it's very difficult to get them not to like stovepipe when you're racking the bolt. And when you rack the last uh, bullet in the chamber, the clip falls out the bottom. That like on M1, it pops up, it falls out the bottom, and you never heard about the clip. It would have been right there in the sniper's nest because he racked the last round into the chamber. They found it with 1 round in the chamber and no other bullets. The clip, they never mentioned the clip, and it just pops up on the evidence file 3 days later. So
Yeah. Well,
there's so many things
just
yeah.
like the bullets is on the gurney, so just so happens to be magically in great, great working order too, where you could refire that thing if you wanted to.
Yeah, and that weapon doesn't have the muzzle velocity to go through all those people in the first place. It would never have been able to do that.
Okay, one more question on Kennedy, if I
Yep,
can.
sure.
Do you feel like there's a connection between Jack Ruby and Lee Oswald? Did they know each other, or no
No
connection at
question.
all?
No question. They knew each other very well. In fact, Jack Ruby knew Lee since he was a kid because one of Marcelo's henchmen was a guy named Dutz Moret, who was Lee's uncle. And he knew Lee very well. It was a very strange situation. Had been working together uh, that summer on a thing. Well, if you want to know, it's a fascinating book by Judith Ferry Baker, who is a woman that alleges she had an affair with Lee that summer. I met her. I had the rights to the book for a while, but nobody wanted to make the movie. I couldn't get it made, and yeah, Jack Ruby knew Lee very well, but he was
Since
put in a position to, it's like, Jack, don't worry, you'll be a hero, but you're going to do this.
it's
And
just
he
one of
did.
those stories that, as you peel back the layers on the proverbial onion, it just gets more and more interesting. And I'm shocked that nobody
True.
wanted to, option that to make it into something, because it seems like, especially in today's generation, that would be such an interesting and fascinating story. But like, that's why
It
I like
would.
The Night Agent. It's why I like this show, is just to bring into, and to me, I kind of question everything, especially with certain recent news headlines coming out. You're very much looking at
Yeah.
corruption at high levels, and that's what this show touches upon. How did the Night Agent land on your radar? How did you first get involved? How did you find out about the show?
Well, I got my agents just sent me, an audition request for season 2, and to tell you the truth, Brad, I've read about this guy. He was summa cum laude at Harvard or Yale, I can't remember. It's the most intelligent person I ever played. I play a lot of kind of rugged bad guys and that kind of thing, but this guy is like, you know, intensely. Uh, well, he's very cerebral and very smart, and so I did the audition with, suit and tie, did the whole thing, and I just wasn't really sure. I was like, I wondered if I would even, if I was not embarrassing myself. And so the agents called back and they said they want to do another, it was a Zoom, to do a Zoom with you with the creator and so forth. And I probably wouldn't have asked this earlier in my career, but these days, I've been around long enough. I'm like, look, I'm going to ask this question. So I asked Sean Ryan, I said, Sean, what is it? Because I wanted some info that might help me, because I was unsure about my first audition in spite of getting the call back. And we were going to we were going to do it again. And I said, Sean, what is it about my audition that makes you think I can do this part? He said, it's a great question. He goes, I've been writing TV for 30 years, and sometimes you write something, it's good, and sometimes you go, I'm not sure about that. And he said, but when I saw your audition, I thought, I am a good writer. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I was like, so man, that was quite a compliment. And I thought, well, I'm just going to do the same thing I did in the first audition, which I did. And I got the part. And then, of course, I had to sort of figure out, go a little deeper, dive into this guy because he's kind of diabolical, but yet something Sean told me, he said, we talked about that. And he said, but Lou, every character that I write, I always, regardless of how they are, and appear to be, I always put in some, sense of humanity, some sense of good, or at least something that by itself would appear to be good. And that was a relief too, because it kind of helped me just, relax into the guy and just, like I usually do, use the script as a blueprint and go for it.
And then find it. First off, that's like the greatest compliment you can get as an actor, to bring a writer's words to life and make the writer
Yeah.
go, hey, oh, hey, man, I might actually be halfway decent at this thing.
I know, and I don't usually pat myself on the back, but that was something that really stuck with me. I was flattered beyond belief.
When you have a character too, like you mentioned, that you use the adjective diabolical, I mean, it can be. I would say it'd be difficult because you almost, if you lean into that too much, it's almost super Bond villain or Goldfinger, mustache twirling,
Yeah,
exactly, bad guy. Where you have to play this guy, and this whole show is about shades of gray in a lot of ways, and questioning
yeah,
morality and ethics and those types of things, which the best shows do and the best characters do. But it
yeah.
has to be nice to not lean too much into, like you said, the mustache twirling, and
Yeah,
find the
yeah,
humanity.
absolutely. And again, the writing, the way that the character is written really, really helps because there really is none of that written into it, even though um, there's a scene in episode 2 this season where it's probably the most diabolical, if you will, than Monroe has ever been. And and still, because of the way it was written and the way that by now I had done a whole season and started really getting to know this guy, I was able to, I think, avoid that, you know. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, I feel like every show that you do, you learn something from it, and you're able to take it into the next job. I mean, that's just life in general, not even just
Yeah.
acting, with anything, right? You take it into the next job. You reading through some of your credits to be on Murder She Wrote, which when I was younger I would watch all the time because I just thought it was such a fun show.
Wow.
Was that I don't know if that was the one, or was there an early one in your career where you had that, I don't know, imposter syndrome? Like you're like, oh wow, I can't believe I'm actually doing this on this show or this movie or this project.
That's a great question, man. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. There are definitely times early in your career as an actor that you feel like an imposter. And I mean, even throughout your career, there are times where you go, God, and then people say, hey, you did a great job. And I went, wow, I fooled them, you know. But working on Murder, She Wrote was, for even though I actually did three different characters on Murder, She Wrote. I did a season 5, I played a character that brought me back. Season 6, I did one. And then season 8, I started playing Andy Broom, which I did until the end of the season, to the end of the series. But man, what a job to have for a guy that's just getting started, because all these actors that, she always had these old time guys and gals that have been around forever. And just being able to hear their stories and because they love telling stories, man. Actors, especially actors that have been around for a while, love telling stories. And I was just in heaven, man. And then to be able to work with Angela, who is the classiest person, maybe one of the classiest persons I ever met in my life. But as far as the business, she was just extraordinary and just kind and generous of heart. And I mean, she was an amazing, amazing woman. And Bill Wyndham and Ron Masak, I mean, they kind of took me right in and made me feel at home. It was amazing. It was a great way to start a career.
That's what I was gonna say. To see Angela be the number one on the call sheet and how kind and lovely she was, it must have made you. I don't know if even gave you like a false impression of, oh, is this how it always is gonna be? Is it always gonna be so welcoming?
That again, boy, you ask good questions. That's true. That is true. But working with some of the old time people through 5 seasons, you find out, well, maybe that. But listen, I had a moment. I was working on a show up in Canada in Vancouver. It was right after COVID, right when everybody came back from COVID. And you're out in a tent sitting, 6 feet away from everybody. You're wearing a mask outside. It was all just, it was not fun. And I think my call time, my pickup time was like 5:30 a.m. Get to the set. In that show, they either made me younger or older. I never played my age, so I was always in the chair for a bit of time. So I went through that. Then we go to the set, and I sat there and I sat there and I sat there, and I remember thinking, that's why all those old timers were so crabby. They're just tired of sitting around, waiting. So I ended up like at noon going to rehearse the scene. We rehearsed the scene, then we broke for lunch. So I didn't really get on camera till like 1:30, and my call was 5:30.
So you may have been a little ornery.
That might have been. Well, I never really show it, but internally I'm going, come on, man, what's going on?
And I want to get into the night agent more because obviously there's some real life situations that went into this season. But before I do, going back to a characterization, I heard Ben Affleck tell a joke where he said, how many actors does it take to change a light bulb? 21. One to change the light bulb and 20 to tell you how they would have changed the light bulb. Right. And it's a joke, but it's also true because there's so many different ways you can approach a character. Even if it's on the
Yeah.
page there's so many small things you can do that's going to affect that performance, whether it be, your costuming, your business that you're doing during the set, what, kind of jewelry you choose to wear,
Yeah.
the affliction of your voice, the way that you approach the line delivery. Is there a certain method that you try to follow? Is it like I read through and you kind of conceptualize who this guy actually is?
Yes, I use the script as my blueprint. A lot of times the wardrobe is a little bit out of your,
Sure.
purview as far as what you can do. I mean, with Jacob, he's constantly wearing suits, so I had an amazing wardrobe, the costume creator. But the costume really does help your character a lot. Um, but as far as, I mean, the if you're on the if the directors aren't giving you direction, then you're doing something right. And then of course when they do, uh, it's always it makes sense. It's a collaboration. I find that the more you prepare and really again let the script tell you what needs to be done, I can avoid a lot of. I love collaboration, and I got to tell you, I love working with female directors. And there were several female directors on this show. They hire a lot of female directors. There's no offense to the male directors.
Sure.
I love working with different directors all the time because you always learn something. But there's a certain sensitivity, and I think that for the most part, they're more interested in the story because some directors are just like, let's get this shot, no, and it's like, yeah, you're doing fine, you're doing fine. Let's just, that means a lot to some directors, the whole
Sure.
shot setup. But um, so yeah, I don't know if I answered your question well enough, but yeah, it just all those things can be a factor, but I usually have a pretty easy time with it.
Yeah, using that script as the blueprint to kind of read between the dialogue sometimes to figure out exactly what makes this guy tick. When it comes to The Night Agent, again, season 3 is on Netflix.
Yeah.
For people who haven't checked it out, you should. This is a great bingeable show too. If you start at season 1, you'll catch up because you can't put it down. But you had something go on prior to production that you took to
Mhm.
Sean Ryan, the showrunner, and it,
Yeah.
it kind of got baked into the actual show itself. But you had a cancer diagnosis of
Mhm.
prostate cancer.
Yeah.
My first question really is when that news is delivered, your
Mm.
immediate reaction is what? When you hear, if you don't mind sharing, when
No,
you
I don't
hear
mind.
that,
Uh,
what is your immediate thought process?
well, you kind of go numb. And the funny thing is that I love researching things like with the JFK case, things that interest me. So I've read a lot about cancer research. My mother had breast cancer in 1969, and then a year later she had some lymph nodes removed and lived cancer free for 38 more years. But and her doctor told her it was in 1969, the year we went to the moon,
Mm,
and he said if they would spend the money that they spend on one moonshot, which was $1 billion with a B, we would have a cure for cancer. And so it always, I mean, how many billions of dollars have been, donated in the name of cancer research? And so anyway, it was a shock. By this time, by the time they told the urologist actually told me because I had a CT scan, you just kind of go numb and uh, and then you for the next I don't know week, 2 weeks, you kind of stay in that. I'm speaking for myself.
sure.
Stay in that kind of disbelief, but it was obvious because I was losing weight like crazy. I had lost 20 pounds by that time.
Wow.
And because I was having something called premature ventricular contractions, which it feels like your heart is skipping a beat, but it's actually beating too fast after it'll beat and then beat real quick and then leave
Mm,
a space. And we spent 2 months having heart uh, CT scans and all this stuff, and my heart was perfect, zero blockage. There was nothing. And I told my cardiologist, I said, "It's not my heart. Something's making this happen." And which led to just a blood test, a blood panel, and showed my PSA. It was sky high. And so then you have to. Then when I met my oncologist for the first time, he said something that I'll never forget, and anybody going through this should know. He said, "Lou, I've treated a lot of men in your situation. The ones with a positive attitude are still with us, and the ones that took the negative approach and poor me and woe is me," he said, "they're not around." And I went, "Oh shit! Well, that's not going to be me." Oh, sorry,
you're
you
fine.
might have to bleep that.
You're good.
Um, so I just said, I'm not gonna let this beat me, and then, well, I'll let you get into the whole thing with Sean or ask your question there. But so the first, it was like, you kind of never think you're gonna hear that too, Yeah,
Sure.
it's just not something you think about, even though I would research it. It's like, I don't know, I'm healthy because I'm never sick. I never had any real bad situations, I never got COVID, I just like, and then to hear that, it's like, holy crap, give me COVID, man.
Yeah, I'd rather take that. I'd rather take my chances with that for sure. And so immediately, okay, and we'll get into what happens with the job portion, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously, I would think when you hear that word and you hear that diagnosis, you start thinking about oh man, my whole life is going to be changed. I can't do
Yeah.
this again, or maybe I won't be able to do that. Maybe they won't cast. I don't know. You just don't know. There's so many questions and so many unknowns into that. So did you make the decision like, hey, let me call Sean or let me call the producers and let them know what's going on?
Yes, I mean, I wanted to call him immediately, but it was right at the holidays, and so Sean had called me not too long, a couple of days or so after my diagnosis, and I'm still trying to figure out a little more about what's going to happen. So I'm talking to the doctors. I'm trying to figure out what my regimen would be with chemo and that kind of thing. So he called and he just said, "Hey, Lou, I want to talk. Just give me a call. I'm gonna talk. Let's talk about season three." And then I called back, left a message, and then the actual holidays hit. So we didn't actually speak until January 6th, which was a Monday, this first day that everybody really came back from the
Yeah.
holidays. So I got on the phone with him and I said, "Hey, buddy, I got bad news." And I told him about the diagnosis. Now it's January 6th, and we were scheduled to start February 8th.
Wow.
So
Okay.
1 month.
Yeah.
And I really was prepared for like, oh, Lou, man, I'm so sorry. I guess we're going to have to maybe recast or, something. So I told him the situation, and he said the first thing out of his mouth was, "Lou, your health is the most important thing. But if there's a way we can work this out, we'd love to do that." And I was just like, oh my God. So I'm thinking, because I'd already gotten several of the scripts, and the part was big this season, bigger than last season. And I'm like, yeah, man, let's talk about it. So we started talking about it, and I had an idea I was going to throw out to him, but he did it before. He said, "Lou, I don't want to infringe on your privacy because I don't know how much you want people to know about this. But what if we write it into the script?" And I went, "You're going to have to, because I've already lost 20 pounds. I'll lose more when I start chemo. I'm going to lose my hair. I had a full beard." I said, "That'll probably fall out too." Oddly enough, everything fell out but my goatee and mustache. Um, so from then on, it was like, go. And so he immediately went into the writer's room, told everybody what was happening. They started making, the necessary changes. And oddly enough, the situation with Monroe in season three, which had already been written in, the cancer diagnosis really sort of accentuated that journey that he's on, as people will see. Uh, so in a way, it was kind of serendipitous. So I went to, you talk about you from the South. I'm from Baton Rouge. So
Okay. Yeah. So we're cousins.
your cousins. And so I went back to Baton Rouge to get treatment, because getting treatment in LA takes a long time to get
Sure.
the appointment and then the test. So know a lot of doctors there, and my family's been there for all of our lives. I've been in LA 44 years, but I'm still very connected to Baton Rouge. And so I went there, and I would have a chemo treatment, and then I'd fly up, shoot, and they would have everything like set up to get me in, get me out. I had a few really long days, which is normal, but they always gave me this break around lunchtime so I could rest. And it's funny because soon as we decided, hey, we're going to do this, I'm like, I'm thrilled. And then I go, oh man, what did I get myself into? Because I wasn't feeling too good.
Right.
But again, they had a body double for me for long scenes that I wouldn't have to do. And and I mean everybody, the producers, the cast, the crew, everyone I've just felt like this warm blanket, wrapped around me, and they really, really took care of me. I'm so indebted to them, and it really gave me a lot of hope for our industry. To tell you
Well,
the
and
truth.
and you know what? Like, and for humankind, like, because
Yes.
like yesterday I got a phone call at 1:30, and my mother had fallen She's in her
Oh,
70s and fell at a store, broke her kneecap, right?
oh,
And terrible injury. But what I was so relieved about was there was a 7 or 8 people who were just shopping around the store, and they just stopped and they stayed with her. Some woman who I wish I remembered her name stayed on the phone with me the whole time until I got there, talked me through everything that was going on, what the paramedics were saying, and it just kind of reestablished my belief in that there's so many great
humanity.
people in there, whether that be strangers in a Target supermarket, whether that be
Yeah,
Angela from
yeah,
Murder She Wrote, whether that be Sean from The Night
yeah.
Agent. There are these great, gracious people in there. And I guess when you make that phone call, you let Sean know what's going on. And immediately it's like, we're going to change everything. We're going to make changes. Because changing a script, especially a month out from production, that's not a small task.
That's
That's a big thing to do.
not to mention all the provisions and the things that they did to make me comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big
And I'm
lift.
sure it cost more money too,
I'm
you
sure
know.
it did. I'm sure it did. But the fact that they were doing that because they knew that not only is your character important to the show, but you're important to the show. You know, like you're important to the show. So we need Lou to be on board because he's what's
Yeah.
helping make this thing go, this train move forward. That
I,
had to
I've
be such a huge relief.
Yeah, it really was, but I did feel that, I really did feel that they really wanted me to do the show. And so, um, yeah. And what you're talking about with your mom, my wishes for a speedy recovery, because my mother broke a hip at 81, then 2 years later broke the other hip. And boy, it was a deep, but a kneecap is probably better than the hip. The hip,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
her a speedy
Thank you.
recovery. But it's true, especially in this day and time, when you find people that are just, and I think maybe because of the kind of crazy times we're living in, maybe hopefully people are starting to be even more empathetic to others and so forth. I mean, I've always, well, we're Southerners, and so it's kind of baked into us,
Sure.
the yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and all
Mhm.
that, just courtesy. When I was in the sixth grade, I won the most courteous kid in school. But it was my parents. My dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and my mom was executive secretary for a lot of important, men in industry, and they raised us right.
Yeah. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Please and thank you cost you nothing, but can give you so much. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
true.
People forget about that. So, if I could go back to the diagnosis, I know that
Yeah.
you're in remission currently,
Hmm.
and you've gone through all of it. Now, when it comes to prostate cancer, and again, I don't know a lot about it, but it's something that every man needs to be aware of, right? The
Yes.
possibilities of these things. I know that there are several treatment options. I heard one time Dr. Drew had his prostate removed. Ben Stiller had something about putting
Yeah.
some beads of some kind that are medicated in the prostate.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that you can do. You went through it sounds like a chemo route in order
Yeah. I
to
didn't,
do
I
it.
didn't have surgery. I just went through the chemo route. And I used holistic medicine at the same time, a whole, uh, barrage of holistic supplements and so forth. Um, and, and I think that really sped up uh, my recovery. And I really, I mean, I can't give out medical advice.
Sure.
And so, but people should do, if they do are faced with cancer of any kind, really. There's a lot of treatments that are really helping. Now, my case was such that I had to, there was no choice. I needed to do chemo. And, but getting back to your question there, it's true. Men, and the truth is like, it used to be like over 50, get your prostate exam, but now it can be a lot sooner. In fact, my oncologist told me about a guy who's 46 and had a situation very similar to mine, who is also doing extremely well. He took a lot of the same process that I did, the
Good.
holistic approach with the chemo. And because if you check it and get it early, you see, I went 3 years without a physical because I was working overseas. I was busy. I felt great. I mean, believe me, this I felt great up until like just a couple of months before my diagnosis. And if it's caught early, even if they tell you, sir, you have prostate cancer, but the good news is it's so early that we're not even going to treat it yet. We're just going to watch it. And you might live the rest of your life without ever having to get any kind of real treatment. It's a very slow moving cancer, usually. So mine was on, I don't know what the hell, why, but it's 3 years I went without a prostate exam. So it's scary. Man, I have a friend, I was talking to him about this, and I said, when's the last time you had your prostate checked? He said, I don't know if I ever have. And he's a contemporary. I went, dude, you need to do that. He goes, I'll be honest with you, I'm scared to death. And I said, well, you're scared to death, but think about if he goes, hey, you're fine, how relieved you will be. And if he says, well, there's a little issue that we just need to, keep an eye on, it's not worth it. Believe me, it's not worth it. Going through that is no fun whatsoever.
Yeah, I think
So
some people forget that you can also think about the best case scenario, right?
yeah. Well, listen,
That
I'll be honest with you. I was pretty good about getting my exams and I didn't have any kind of real phobia about doctors or anything like that. But now that have experienced what it can be like when you're in a doctor's care that really cares. Um, I mean, I have no problem with it now. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's go. Take my bloods. Tell me what's going on. I want to know. So when you go through this, you definitely, end up wanting to know what the hell's going on at all
sure,
times.
sure. It's just such an incredible story that you were able to not only successfully treat this, and go into remission, but also be able to write this into a show and then to have a platform during the press to be able to shine a light on something that because look, especially for us in Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, we like to be good old boys. We'll tough it out. Don't worry. Throw
Right.
some dirt on it. Put some duct tape on it. We'll be all good.
Yeah.
But it's so important to stay on top of your health because you only get one go around, right? You only get one go around.
Man, look, we all have heard it so many times before. If you ain't got your health, you ain't got nothing. And it's true. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how happy you are, how anything. When you get that diagnosis and you have to go through that, man, it does change everything. And, you can get through it. There are a lot of people walking around this, for many, many years some that just still have cancer. It's just they treat it, and it's treatable. It's like, I use as an analogy, if you're an alcoholic, but you hadn't had a drink in 20 years, you're still an alcoholic. And once you're a cancer patient, you really might, it's not that you can't become cancer free, it's that even if you become cancer free, the little buggers are known to come back.
Yeah.
So you can't let your guard down. And that's why I won't, I'll probably always be for the rest of my life, I'm going to be, no matter how good I feel, I'm always going to be keeping very close eye on my health.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you have
Got
to.
to.
You got to. You don't really have much of a choice, but it's
No.
also great for you to say and talk to if anybody listening out there is going through this, yes, definitely talk to your oncologist. Do research, ask questions, right?
Yeah.
Come in with a list. If hey, I heard
Yes.
this thing, I heard about this thing. What tell me about that, and get all the information you need.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I did. And you will find some oncologists that will say, "Oh, that's bunk, that's bunk, that's bunk." Mine didn't say that. And he was shocked that, my first scan was 2 months after starting chemo. And he was like, in fact, we skipped my last chemo treatment. We were going to skip two, but he said, yeah, let me go ahead and do one more, but we'll get rid of because he thought I should get 8. I only got 7, and I probably would have been fine with 6. Uh, so from an extraordinarily high prostate number when I was diagnosed, by September 2nd, my prostate was in the normal range, 4.4. So, again, but you just can't put your guard down, you know. Uh, yeah, and I'll be honest with you, Brad. I'm not too big on publicity. My team's always saying, "Hey, you need to," I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I'm not one of these guys that need to be, in the news and all that kind of stuff. I just love doing what I do. But this time I said, I need to tell people what these lovely human beings did for me because it gave me something to do. It gave me something to concentrate on that wasn't cancer. And 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 because of the amount of dialogue and the size of the role this season, it just it was a godsend because it definitely aided in my recovery. There's no question.
Yeah, it was medicine in its own right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Medicine in its own right. And y'all could
Yeah.
see this story, Netflix again. This show is so good. I feel like it's made for me. I always like though for actors who have of your caliber and done so much in their career. I'm always curious on one thing, and this would be my final question for you.
Yeah.
Because when I got into this and doing radio, television, interviewing people, I looked to like, okay, who did I enjoy watching growing up? And for me, my grandparents had gave me a collection of all these old Johnny Carson tapes. And I would
Oh,
watch Johnny Carson Tonight Show. I even got his picture right there above me.
yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, yeah.
I love the Johnny Carson Tonight Show. So that's a guy who I look at and kind of modeled some of my, things around, some of my ideas of this job. Was there or is there an actor or several actors who you looked at and go, "Oh, this is my guy, this is my girl"?
Well, honestly, when I first decided I wanted to be in show business was when I was 12 years old and my dad took me to see the movie Bullet.
Oh, Steve
Do you know the
McQueen.
movie?
Yeah.
Huh?
Steve McQueen, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. So, but it wasn't the acting that, well, look, he's the king of cool, right?
He's
I
the
mean,
man.
just
Yeah.
period. And but it was the car chase. And I was like walking out of the theater. I went, Dad, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And he goes, You want to be in movies? I said, I want to drive cars like that in movies. So I wanted to be a stuntman until I sort of fell into acting. My plan was to come to Hollywood and do stunts. And I was I was selling clothes at a fine men's clothing store in the mid 70s, and they asked me to do some of their modeling, and which I did, and that led to some TV commercials, and then that led to getting an agent, and I was doing this because I could, and I said that's good, I'll get kind of used to the industry, learn a little about it, and then my agent at the time, Dee Cawthorn, she put a play in my hand that they were doing at the little theater called The Rainmaker. And she said, go audition for this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, no, I just got a feeling. Go audition. So I went and auditioned. I got the lead. And I did the play and got a couple of nominations, won an award, and that was like, phew, that was it. So I changed. But of course, Steve McQueen, if there was an actor that I had to name, it would definitely be him.
Yeah, the cool and the car chase in Bullet's one of the most famous movie chases of all time.
I think it's the best one of all
It
time as
is.
well. And I
Yeah.
have a 68 Mustang Fastback, by the way.
Because of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
absolutely. It's a clone. It's a Bullet clone.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I love that movie. You know what? I might have to watch Bullet tonight. But Louis, thank you so much, man, for taking the time. I really do appreciate you sharing the story and also the perseverance and the persistence to battle through this and to be on the other side of it, now and be telling the story and for people to be able to have that in their mind too when they watch this season. I think it's going to add a little extra context and layer to the performance of which
They're in for a lot of surprises, and they're going to see a side of Monroe that's quite different. Makes me look a little more sinister too.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I appreciate you taking the time, sir. Such a
My
such a
pleasure.
pleasure speaking to you.
Same here, buddy. Thank you so much for having me.